Hey guys, Glue25
and Archer9234.
with episode 104 of Ranger Review. Today we have the Power Rangers Turbo, the Turbo Blaster, Turbo Sword, and the Turbo Navigator from Gexo Sentai Car Rangers. Alright, so now we have the Turbo Blaster. It's just mainly much a gun. Actually, it looks like a car. The two wheels are right here and on both sides.
It was the primary weapon for the Turbo Rangers. Unfortunately, it was rarely ever used in the show.
Which is kind of sad because the weapon did come out, but sadly we don't use it, which is really odd. And you actually see the Rangers have them on the belts. There's no on and off switch on this thing, which is sad. So when you put batteries in,
it starts draining it immediately.
Please be careful when you're not using it to get out. So mainly much what happens is when you press a button, it has lights right here, so it's pretty cool. There's no other sound effects, but when you pull it back, and there's a button here that you push. So this is when they use it in the secondary mode. And this time when you press the button,
it does a different sound effect and a different light sequence.
So, you know, it's a really decent thing, and it actually looks like a little engine also as well, and has a little wheel to actually make it look like it's an engine revving up. So also, just to let you guys know right now, when you want to go back to the reverter mode, you have to close this first and then push it in, because you cannot
do it from in reverse,
because it'll look weird and
it'll get jammed up.
Alright, so now we have the Turbo Sword, aka the biblade. Now in the American version only, this was packaged together with the Turbo Blaster. In Japan, they actually released these separately. So pretty much this is it. It's just a plastic sword that can't do anything. Okay, it just says Turbo Rangers, and it also has a little sticker. Now don't get confused with Turbo Rangers from Sentai, because
people do get confused with both shows.
So mainly much, that's it. It doesn't do much. It's just
it was just an added thing to the American Turbo Blaster.
And it's really odd because this thing does something. This thing is just a role-playing weapon that
doesn't do anything.
And it's pretty small too, which is also kind of sad. Alright, so now we have the Turbo Navigator. Now this thing is actually used out of all the turbo weapons.
It was used the most because it was always used by Justin mainly, and it was used to help find like detoxes, bombs and stuff.
Mainly much what you do is just you open it up. Now in the show, they just pretend that they're searching for something, but in the toy, it's actually a game.
It actually is very reminiscent to one of those old 90s Tiger Electronic LCD screens that had like, you know, Mortal Kombat and all that stuff. It's very similar to that.
So what you do is just you press the button, and it starts. Now the game is mainly much a target practice, which you trying to...
The ball will get lined up. You have to line up the ball with the reticle in there. Fortunately enough, this game is actually an unlimited game, so that every time you go through the game, it gets faster and faster to the point where you'll just lose. It's not a limited game like some other variations.
That's it. I mean, that happens when you lose.
Unfortunately, though, it doesn't save the high score. You can go, it does have a high score, but it doesn't save it when you take out the batteries.
Sadly. So mainly much that's the only thing. So now here we have it here in the other mode. Now this mode, there is no sounds, but there is a...
The mini game is still accessible. Basically, when the screen is popped out, it actually still functions as the mini game, but this time you use the reticle, you use the trigger button.
You use the trigger button to actually fire it. Sadly, it doesn't have any lights or sound effects, even though it is a gun and it is a blaster. And it doesn't. This is actually one of the first blasters that doesn't really have that, which is kind of odd. This is the weapon combination with the Turbo Navigator and the Turbo Blaster to make
the Turbo Blaster Defender mode.
We only used this once, and this was actually a random moment we actually saw in the episode.
Where the Blue Centurion was going crazy with the bug, and Cassie pulled it out of nowhere. We had no idea this actually combined it.
And most people will forget that you actually can combine it because of the fact that we actually don't remember it, because we only seen it once in the show, and people are like, wait, this actually happened in the show?
Yeah, it did. It works the exact same way. There's no different sound effects. All it does is simply connects to the back.
Sadly, it isn't like those we combine weapons, anything, the lights and sounds change. Sadly, this time.
It's just an accessory.
It's just a double weapon barrel thing. Think of it like double weapon barrel. That's about it. Alright, so alteration wise from the Auto Blaster to the Turbo Blaster, there was not much really changed. The only thing of course is we changed the sticker from Turbo Rangers to
Car Rangers.
The chrome is kept, everything is kept.
Sound effects, the lights were kept.
Also another change is the battery compartment. The American version was a screw. The Japanese one was actually just a clip-on.
I don't understand why America started doing this where it changed the battery type. I don't know, it just makes it more cumbersome because we have to use a screwdriver to take out the battery, while Japan kept it as the clip-ons.
It's actually really nice that we kept the chrome, we kept everything, just the sticker and the little battery compartment. Or the sword, of course, sticker, of course, was changed. It was not called Turbo Rangers. For some odd reason, we changed this to a sticker. The Japanese one was actually not a sticker. It was actually like a chrome little engine. But I don't know why we put it ours as a sticker. Also, there were also some electronics to the sword because
that was the reason why it was sold individually, because it would have cost too much money to put them together. But since America did that, because my theory is the reason why it was put together was because it must have not sold well. Because again, the Viblade or Turbo Blade was not used in the show at all, hardly.
So when kids bought it back in the 90s, they're like, I don't remember seeing this, so I don't buy it. Now the funny thing, the only good thing about the sword is that it has a holder. Right here, you can actually hook it up to put a hook onto your wall or something like that, or do what they did in Akiba Ranger, which is just
mounted to the wall.
Mounted to the wall. Piece. So it's really much. It's a thing for display, but you can if you can customize this to make it a bit longer and make it bigger. I would highly suggest you do that because it actually looks better when it's longer. Now for the Turbo Navigator,
a lot of changes were done to it.
There's actually 4 versions of it. This is the original Japanese
version, which was originally gray and black and had the car logos and everything.
The first version was the Power Rangers Turbo one, which was actually turned blue.
And it was turned white as well.
Yeah, and also this was actually, they actually put Power Rangers Turbo on it as the sticker logo.
The inside sticker that has all the English lettering on it pretty much was identical. The only thing they did was change the Borzak part, and they changed it to Diva Top. So other than that, the entire sticker was identical.
The game was actually capped, which is really nice. The chrome was, of course, capped, which is nice. And then later on, in Power Rangers in Space, we actually released the Turbo Navigator again, but this time
it was white and red.
Yeah, which is really, really odd. And then finally, in Lost Galaxy, we introduced the green version. Also, the top part was, of course, not called Car Ranger.
They removed the actual. This is actually engraved onto the plastic, but in ours it was changed into a sticker.
We still kept the gun mode.
The gun mode, everything is the mold. It was the same thing. It was just the appearance of it.
The appearance and the fact that we released 3 versions of it, which is really kind of stupid because
I don't understand why. Perhaps it didn't sell a lot, or actually it did sell a lot, and they said, well, let's just keep re-releasing it. But it was re-released 3 years in a row.
I would actually say get this because it has a really nice game, and if you were born in the 90s,
you always like it because it has the old-fashioned
game, not like the DS's or whatnot that kids have now. This is actually something to have a little reminiscence to the back of the 90s, how we played video games. Overall, I would suggest get the Turbo Navigator, get the Auto Blaster because of the size, but the sword we have an issue with because you can't do much with it. It's just a plain piece of rubber junk. It's not worth it. So yeah, that's it for our review of the Power Rangers Turbo role-playing weapon.
Join us next week for the Turbo Megazord.
Rate, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you next week. Hey guys, like 25
and Archer 9234.
With episode 104 of Ranger Review. Today we have the Power Rangers Turbo, the Auto Blaster, the Turbo Sword,
No, you said Auto Blaster.
Oh.
Turbo Blaster. The Auto Blaster Japanese one. We're gonna get screwed up badly in this
We are. Hey guys, like 25
and Archer 9234.
With episode 104 of Ranger Review. Alright, so now we have the Turbo Blaster.
Say that again.
Alright, so now we have the Turbo Blaster.
We're gonna get really bad at this.
Alright, so now this mode we actually saw once, which is the Turbo Blaster Defender mode. This one we actually seen only once in Turbo Ranger.
It was the episode where
the Turbo Rangers. This year you actually can reminisce to the Gokaiger's Double Final Wave that Doc used, because instead it's 2 blasters instead of 1. The funny thing is that the green version of the Turbo Navigator is not really surprising because we actually reissued the green Astro Blaster, And during the Lost Galaxy line, a lot of stuff from Turbo got reissued for some stupid weird reason.